Beware of the blob, it creeps and leaps, and humans are its favorite treat. Beware of the blob, it creeps and leaps, and Steve McQueen is playing Steve. Beware of the blob, it creeps and leaps, you must put it in the Arctic freeze. Beware of the blob, it creeps and leaps, cold is the only way to stop its eats. I'm John Renton with the retro review of The Blob from 1958, starring Steve McQueen, who would go on to be in many great movies such as Bullitt, a film I need to retro review at some point. Unfortunately, his life came to a tragic end very quickly. I will say this much, Steve McQueen should have had another 20 to 30 years on this earth. Whether he was doing more films or just living out his golden years, Steve McQueen was taken way too soon. He plays Steve. This is also the last movie where he played Steve. So this was directed by Irvin S. Yeworth Jr., which sounds like a name way too snooty to be involved in a film called The Blob. And yes, we would get a 1988 rendition titled The Blob. And that amped it up with some 80 gore effects and some pretty good stuff. And wasn't exactly a resounding success, but at least, did well enough that you would think there would have been an audience for them to kind of redo The Blob at some point. Like, why hasn't The Blob been redone in modern times? You could do with CGI, practical effects, whatever. There's enough people you can get involved in this. There are enough horror directors that have proven themselves. Why has The Blob not been remade? Remake The Blob, goddammit. But before that, basically Irvin did 4D Man and Dinosaurus, and the uncredited director was Russell S. Doughton Jr. A lot of S's, a lot of juniors involved in this project. And it was written by two people, Kay Lineker, who, she's done a few things. It was kind of cool that a woman helped write this, and Theodore Simonson, and it is based on an original idea by Irving H. Milgate. And yes, you have Steve McQueen, you have Annetta Corsott, who was in the Andy Griffith Show, some other television. She plays Jane, you ignorance. I can't really say that, the famous Dan Aykroyd SNL thing. And if you're unfamiliar with The Blob, asteroid crashes down to Earth, there's a rock, there is a blob inside that, as it consumes humans, grows and just consumes everything and everyone at once. Mainly things with actual, pumping blood. Because it is a big fan of that, that classic song that came out just a number of years ago that I'm actually forgetting the name of the band. I remember a guy had an adorable rabbit in it, a deeply confused rabbit. No deeply confused rabbit in this, just deeply confused cops. You do have Earl Rowe, who is in Kojak and Ryan's Hope. You have Alan Howard. You have Stephen Chase. You have John Benson. You have George Karras, Lee Patton, that is, and also Albert Smith. You actually have quite a few, good character actors and people that would, continue their careers after this. The $240,000 budget, which would be $2.6 million in today's money, allowed them to actually have some pretty good special effects. Now, I will say this could have used a little more Blob. There's a little bit too much talking between the characters. I'm not saying that you can't have a balance and you should make the Blob more special. I'm not saying the Blob needed to be there every 5 minutes, but it could have been there a little more often. Steve McQueen was offered either $2,500 up front or 10% of the profits. He didn't think this would become successful, so he took the $2,500. The film made $4 million. That would be $44.8 million in today's money, meaning that according to just the $4 million, he would have pocketed $400,000. And that means that would be around $4.8 million, roughly, somewhere around that. He would have around $4 million in today's dollars. He would have a lot of money. I don't blame him for taking the $2,500 because, quite frankly, as much as a star on the rise as he was, horror films didn't always do all that well. Even as Creature from the Black Lagoon did pretty well, and we would get upcoming horror movies that would do well. But you would have a lot of monster movies and sci-fi horror stuff. Some that would do well, some that would use loads of stock footage to cut down on production costs, the Mole People, Beasts from 20,000 Fathoms and stuff like that. But The Blob basically just involves Steve McQueen playing a teenager despite the fact he was approaching 30. And the Beware of the Blob, It Creeps and Leaps song will be in your head. Look it up on your YouTube Music app or Spotify or whatever it is you kids do these days. So, the space honeycomb, by the way, will cause you to basically go as mad as the Me One Honeycomb character. What was he supposed to be? Was he supposed to be a tribble? I have no goddamn idea. So basically, this doctor was about to leave, and then Steve McQueen and Steve and Jane brought the old man to the doctor's office. Apparently, they don't have a fucking hospital here. The dog that the old man had is fine, by the way. They tried to put that dog in peril, and I think that dog just wanted to get off set. I hope that dog had a great life. Naturally, that dog is no longer alive because this is 1958. Unless that thing is like the fucking mouse from the Green Mile, and now I am sad again. I will never watch the Green Mile in full again. Unless it's like that, I think that dog is long since dead, but hopefully had a great life. So, yeah, they bring the old man there. The old man gets consumed. There's a nurse that's panicked. They could have easily just jumped over the goddamn thing because it wasn't that big. But throw acid at it. It just shook that off and no-sold it and everything, like Ming with Mace. Yeah, Ming still scares me. Ming scares me more than the Blob, by the way. If you're not a wrestling fan, you are so confused by this. So, you can't stop it. You can't stop it now. It's having such a blob time. Having a blob time. And it's a supersonic blob out of the sky. And it's consuming everyone. All men and all guys. It's consuming... I probably screwed that up. But let's just go with the fact that, hey, it's Steve McQueen. Can't stop him now. Unless it's something on his liver. Something on his liver. That is really mean. I'm going to stop. So, it was a very calm dog, by the way. Surprisingly calm. As Steve and Jane and the teenagers that I assume are played by at least early 20-somethings are looking around. You know, they're looking around for answers. One of the lieutenant wrote playing chess over the radio, because why the hell not? And then, while this guy is fixing a car late at night, he's about to go on a hunting trip, and the Blob catches him. Damn, Blob's causing delays in mechanic shops. No wonder it took forever for, some rear work to be done on my car. That is not a euphemism, by the way. And it's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your children are? I told you last time. No. Where is Bart anyways? Darren's getting all cold and eaten. Then Jane has a brother. I want to say that kid is an idiot. That kid, I think, was woken up from a nap every single time. Like, that kid looked confused. Like, really confused. I imagine that kid's probably still alive. I hope not. Because, God forbid, if that kid happened to see this. But the kid wants a dog and wants to name him William, but doesn't like the name William. Why the hell would you want to name him William then, you little twerp? Alright, so let's go look for proof. Because the cops don't believe them. The cops let them off the hook, despite the fact they were making a whole bunch of noise. This is more about teen delinquents than it is about the Blob most of the time. So then at the drive-in, here's the Blob man. He's gonna, attack and consume them. And if you're not careful, he will get you. So talk blobby to him. Do. Yeah, I know. Terrible stuff here. I did like the blob effects that they use to have it go through the holes in the wall where the blob can see it all. So anyway, you gotta stop it with some coldness and then talk blobby to him. Now, moving on. There's the dog. They find the dog in the supermarket. Somehow the dog manages to escape the Blob that is trying to get to them in the meat freezer, but then backs off. And they don't figure, hey, wait a second. The meat freezer's cold. Maybe we should take it easy. But no, they can't figure that out. It shows up and then slays them. Yes, Slay Queen. Is that where that came from? Did it come from the Blob? I imagine not. I feel really, really stupid saying that at nearly 45 years old. Dog is fine. He does, I assume he shows up a little bit later. They did a lot of stuff at the end, but the dog seemingly is okay. Maybe went backpacking across the goddamn country like, Lou Ferrigno as the Hulk. Or whoever the fuck played Bruce Banner. Help me. I'm drawing a blank. You gotta wake up the town with car horns, because otherwise the Blob is going to knock on the door and consume them, I assume. It can't enter houses. It can get over houses, a plague of a Blob on all your houses. They wake him up, get him into the town square, and they're like, okay, well, everybody go back home. And then suddenly the drive-in is being, or the drive, it's not even a drive-in, it's it's a silly, theater with horror movies. And I assume naughty stuff like you would see in Pearl. I'm not referring to the rotted food at the end. Anybody that's seen Pearl knows what I'm talking about. So, and some people were consumed at the drive-in. Fortunately, Steve managed to get all his friends out. His friends that he drag raced with inadvertently and then did, oh, it's fine, whatever. So, Steve, Jane, and the stupid little brother, along with the Italian, not Mario guy, and somebody else are trapped in the diner. The Blob is trying to get them. Not all the people that are outside the diner that it probably could get bigger with. It's trying to get these specific people. Maybe because Steve managed to stop it briefly. But he gets a fire extinguisher as a fire is raging on. And I'm going to put this out. And oh, wait, the Blob hates cold. And then he yells through the wall, somehow getting the attention of everybody. And hey, it's cold, CO2. So the fire department has a few fire extinguishers, and then everybody in the neighborhood, seemingly everybody in town has one. I guess that's good fire safety. But they, get all the spray, and they manage to spray it cold. They manage to freeze it with fire extinguishers. I mean, I've been hit with a fire extinguisher before. It does, it is cold, but still. So then they are going to, carry it. They freeze it and they're going to drop it in the Arctic. And then they do, and then they show the end, and then it shows a question mark. They never did the Blob 2, McQueen Boogaloo. That's the Blob. It's a fun movie. I mean, it's not something that I think I could watch all the time, but it's a breezy 80-something minutes. It's certainly more enjoyable than some movies of that time, and even some movies that came out 20 to 30 years later, because at least it had some life and energy to it. But is it perfect? No. But is it pretty good? Is it one of the scariest films of all time? No. For the time, I could see why it would be scary because of how films were growing in popularity. Even as some studios were spinning their wheels trying to find the next big thing and the next big star and trying to find a great hit. But the Blob's fun. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. Easy for me to say. God, I'm tired. I have had 3 days off in 3 weeks, and I'm only going to have one more day off for the next 3 weeks. Yay. Work, though. Work. I'm always happy to work. Yeah, so do all that stuff. And my Twitter, my Letterboxd, and my Blue Sky handles are in the description. And I'm John Rentlin. And until we consume everybody like a blob again, happy trails to you.